Hello and welcome to Farm Bureau Voices of Agriculture, South Carolina edition. I'm your host, Reggie Hall. During this next episode, we're going to go to the upstate of South Carolina and visit with an alpaca farmer, Randy Blackmon. We'll also end up in the kitchen with Walter P. Rawl and Sons Farms, cooking up a great April-type dish before we show you some research at Clemson University and some beautiful scenes from around South Carolina, as well as take you back to the old days of antique tractors. We hope that you'll stay tuned for this next half hour. But first, let's go up and visit the alpaca farmer in upstate South Carolina. I don't know a farmer who doesn't want a good return on his investment. There's a growing niche market in the United States where he can get just that by farming alpaca. That's right, alpaca, the South American native cousin to the llama. Since the first import of a registered alpaca to North America in 1984, the alpaca population has grown to more than 100,000. According to alpaca farmers, the animals are easy to care for and raise, and they're extremely profitable. In fact, the Alpaca Owners and Breeders Association lists prices for the typical female in the $12,000 to $25,000 range, with proven top-quality herd sires going anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000. In 2007, 2 alpacas sold for a combined $225,000. The Carolina Alpaca Breeders and Owners Association lists 8 member alpaca farms in South Carolina. We recently traveled to Heath Springs, about 50 miles south of Charlotte, to visit the Farm Bureau members Randy and Donna Blackmon, owners of Flint Ridge Alpacas. Randy's a third-generation farmer who did not see much of a return on his cattle business. One day a few years back, while on vacation, the Blackmons saw a television commercial promoting alpaca farming. And the rest, as they say, is history.
I've been in the farm all my life. This is a third-generation farm, what we got. It belonged to my granddaddy, and my daddy then passed to me. And so I always loved farming. I always liked the animals, and I liked the cattle. But it just got to the point to where I wasn't doing no good with the cattle, and so I wanted to try something new. I've always liked to been an adventurer sometimes, so this was a new adventure that no one knew nothing about in Lancaster County, and that was the biggest scary part about it. The vets didn't know nothing about them, and I couldn't call some of my older ancestors that had raised cattle for 50 years to help tell me anything what goes wrong, to how to fix it. So we had to go to all kind of seminars, and we'd go to different shows and auctions out of state, because at that time there was still no auctions in South Carolina, and they would present different type seminars on the care of them.
The small 150 to 200 pound animals are clean, safe, quiet, intelligent, and disease resistant, and they require relatively small acreage, although there is some work involved in converting existing livestock areas into alpaca-friendly farms.
I had to completely redo the whole farm. That was a big challenge. The alpacas, we had to put up all new type fencing. We was used to just barbed wire fencing for the cow, and just a open shed for shelter. The alpaca, you can put him in a open shed or a 3-sided shed, but naturally you want him protected pretty well, and you want him where you can catch him or whatever to medicate him or to play with him or whatever. But I wasn't used to having to cut everything up, divide everything up into paddocks, and I did. And I had to build 2 or 3 extra barns. I just built small barns, especially for the alpacas, to accommodate those with small stalls, and we built a little vet room out there about helping before we do our weighing and shearing and this kind of stuff. I put up 5-foot fencing that's got the 2x4 inch wire. We always call it dog wire, but it's a welded, sort of like a no climb wire. But that's for more of the outside predators. The alpaca don't challenge a fence, very, very little. And but the stray dogs and the coyotes, and we do have coyotes in this area.
In this day and age, when it seems every organizational entity boasts its environmental stewardship, alpacas are not to be outdone. It's as if they were created to maintain harmony with nature. Their feet are padded, so they're gentle on the landscape, not compacting the soil like larger animals. Alpacas are modified ruminants with a 3-compartment stomach. They can convert food to energy very efficiently and don't require much food. They're in the camel family and can thrive without consuming much water. They do not have upper teeth, so their grazing habits are easy on the environment. They eat tender grasses without pulling them up by the roots. The herd consolidates its small pelleted feces in 1 or 2 spots in the pasture, controlling the potential spread of parasites and making it easy to collect and compost for a rich fertilizer. The ultimate goal of alpaca breeders is for the national population to increase 2 more times to about 300,000 so they can produce a steady supply of made-in-the-U.S. alpaca clothing. And while the primary end alpaca product is its extremely soft, durable, and insulated fleece, most money currently made by alpaca farmers is from breeding top bloodlines.
The biggest return on your investment would be sell and resell, much like you would the cattle or the horse. And we do sell breeds. We got some pretty potent studs. One in particular, he's what we call half Akoya. Akoya is a good bloodline, and he's half Akoya. So, and he's the only one in this area. So we've been lucky enough to sell some breeds off of him, and we got several babies out of him, are just phenomenal.
Alpacas are shorn once a year. Flint Ridge alpacas are generally shorn in April before the South Carolina heat and humidity become oppressive. Donna Blackmon has developed quite a skill of cleaning, carding, and spinning alpaca fiber into yarn, which she later uses to loom or crochet scarves, hats, and other alpaca apparel. There are about 22 natural colors of alpaca fiber. Flint Ridge features mostly black and grays in their herd. Donna says spinning is a relaxing pastime, but she admits there's no way to produce enough to keep up with the demand for her handmade alpaca goods. With the average lifespan of the calm and friendly alpacas about 20 years, it's said that most alpaca farmers are in it for the long haul. Randy Blackmon agrees and is looking forward to Flint Ridge growing into a 5th-generation alpaca farm one day.
Try to pass it down to the 4th generation, which would be my daughter, and I got a new grandbaby that's 6 months old, which would be the 5th generation. And if by all means, I definitely want her to have the farm if any way possible.
There's nothing fresher, nothing finer than locally grown fruits and vegetables. They're tastier, sweeter, healthier, and most of us would agree they're better. That's why your South Carolina Department of Agriculture is working to make certified South Carolina-grown produce and products available in stores in your neighborhood. As for South Carolina, nothing's fresher, nothing's finer.
Welcome back to Voices of Agriculture, South Carolina's edition. We're back here at the Walter P. Rawl & Sons Farm in the middle of South Carolina, one of the largest fresh fruit or fresh vegetable producers on the East Coast, serving grocery stores and consumers all up and down the eastern seaboard and east of the Mississippi. In fact, if you're in your grocery store and don't see their brand, we ask that you ask your grocer about it. Donna Bundrick Griffin's with us in the kitchen today. Donna, hi.
Hi, Reggie. This is a wonderful opportunity to talk about our products and also feature a wonderful recipe.
I can't wait.
But before we get into this easy breezy squash casserole, which is a delight, it's not like the usual squash casserole. I wanted to mention this is one of our kind of trademark products. This is our pico de gallo. And folks, you talk about something good, it is just absolutely wonderful.
Wow, it looks good. And it's under you use the brand name Versatile Veggies.
Right.
And it comes in that clamshell package so you can use a little bit, store it later, and then go back and use it too. So I like that as well. In
this easy breezy squash casserole, we are using 3 of the Versatile Veggies sliced squash.
Okay.
And
that's about a 10-ounce container?
Right. These are really nice. And one thing, Reggie, is that they have this little taper in the bottom. This helps to extend the product beyond the pull date.
Great.
So this is just really good for the consumer.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're using 3 of these, Reggie. Thank you if you'll help me.
Absolutely.
Putting Reggie to work here.
That's right. You just dump those in there.
Right.
Make sure we keep the paper out.
And we're going to use one of our Versatile Veggies sliced yellow onion. This is the not the sliced, but the diced. We have the sliced and the diced
great.
yellow onion. And then
I just love those containers
here Yeah, they're nice because they're easy to put in the refrigerator, and you can see through them. They're just very nice containers. We're adding a cup of water and 1 14-ounce can of the chicken broth.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get those squash to cooking.
Well, that sounds great.
Okay, now I like to cook them until they're fork tender.
Okay.
And that depends on what type of stove you have. So what I would certainly recommend is just to pierce them with a fork and see if they're fork tender. I already have them cooked. I just wanted to go through the procedure with the viewers. We already have those cooked. Of course, now we've drained those very well.
Right.
And now for the real substance of this recipe, we're going to combine 1 can of cream of chicken soup.
Okay. I'm curious to see you do that. That's a different kind of spatula than I'm used to using. It's so hard to get those creamy soups clean out of the can.
Right.
I always feel like I'm leaving some in there.
Well, we don't want to leave any in there. That's the real goodness of this recipe, Reggie.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
And we're going to put in 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. I'm going to get all this out. This is a wonderful squash casserole, and I thought with it being April and people going to family reunions and different activities.
Absolutely.
This would be just a wonderful way to show our versatile veggie sliced squash. We're putting in 1 cup of sour cream, and that is the chicken soup, the cream of chicken soup, the cup of sour cream, and the mayo.
Okay.
We're going to stir these ingredients together. Now, Reggie, we're going to put in 2 cups of, and I'm using the mild cheddar cheese, 2 cups of shredded mild cheddar.
But you could use sharp if you wanted to. If that was to your liking.
That depends on personal preference.
Okay.
And now we're going to put in a 1/4 cup of rice.
Okay.
And that is
uncooked. Uncooked. Is
uncooked
that
rice.
Quick rice or is
it
that?
It is, yes. I'm glad you mentioned that.
All right.
Yeah, this is the quick cooking kind.
Okay.
And we'll put in about a 1/2 cup of slivered almonds.
Oh, yum.
Or, you know, if you wanted more in there, you could use it.
Right.
And then we'll put the squash, we'll fold the squash, the already cooked squash, into these other ingredients.
Well, how easy is that?
Put this mixture into, we don't want any squash and onions in that bowl. Put this mixture into a lightly greased 3-quart casserole dish, and you will bake this, Reggie, at 350 degrees for 30 to 45 minutes. Okay. Now this particular recipe, and we'll have the finished product here, serves, I would say, makes 8 generous servings.
It might be a little less than that if I was eating it.
Yeah, I know, because it is so good. And you know what? It smells so good.
It does.
When it comes out of the oven. Last but not least, if you want to, you could certainly sprinkle some French fried onion rings over the top to give it a little bit of added extra zip.
Maybe a little cheese first and then put those onions on top of that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you want to pass me that dish so I can just put these ingredients in.
Absolutely.
And we'll just put these in there. Bake it again, 350 degrees.
Here, let me hold that for you and you scoop it on in there.
For about 30 to 45 minutes.
And you greased your dish
I greased the dish, that is correct. I think, as I mentioned, the real key to this recipe is cooking the squash in the chicken broth and water. Thank you, Reggie.
You know, I do that even with steamed squash at home. I'll put a little, maybe a cube of bouillon or some, if it's loose bouillon, I'll put some in the water. Right. And it just adds a little extra flavor to it.
It does. So that is our recipe for this feature. Very quick, like you say, and very easy.
Easy and breezy.
Easy and breezy. That's exactly right. A great squash casserole that you'll want to get the recipe for. And as Reggie said, if you don't see the versatile veggies in your favorite grocery store, ask for them.
Ask for them. Anywhere east of the Mississippi, up and down the eastern seaboard. You know, we appreciate so much Walter P. Rawl and Sons and Donna Bundrick Griffin being with us in the kitchen today with our easy breezy squash casserole. We'll continue in just a moment.
There's nothing fresher, nothing finer than locally grown fruits and vegetables. They're tastier, sweeter, healthier, and most of us would agree they're better. That's why your South Carolina Department of Agriculture is working to make certified South Carolina-grown produce and products available in stores in your neighborhood. Ask for South Carolina. Nothing's fresher, nothing's finer.
Have you ever heard of the 5-second rule? You know, that's the amount of time you have if something drops on the floor before you can pick it up and safely eat it. If that's one of your rules, you might want to reconsider after watching this research piece from Clemson University.
The 5-second rule is a popular belief that if you drop food on the floor and pick it up within 5 seconds, it won't be too germ-laden to eat. It's not true, and we've proven it. It's, well, baloney. My name is Paul Dawson. I'm a food scientist in the Food Science and Human Nutrition Department at Clemson University. My students and I have researched the 5-second rule and published the results in the Journal of Applied Microbiology. We did this as a creative inquiry project to learn how research is done. That is, research begins with a simple idea or question. Experiment is then set up to test this idea or question. Data is collected, and finally conclusions drawn based on what the data showed us about that original question. In the case of the 5-second rule, we found that bacteria was transferred from tabletops and floors to the food within 5 seconds. That is, the 5-second rule is not an accurate guide when it comes to eating food that has fallen on the floor. My students have done other creative inquiry projects. We've researched what happens when someone double dips. You've probably seen it happen when someone dips a chip, takes a bite, and then dips a chip again. We've also researched what happens when someone drinks milk out of the carton. Both projects showed these activities are bad ideas when it comes to healthy eating and food safety. The experiments are not silly, but are not only designed to teach students about food science, which is food safety, tastiness, and freshness, but also about how research is done and how it affects our daily lives, even if it's about dropping food on the floor. Most of all, Clemson's Creative Inquiry Program is looking deeper into the world around us, learning how to question facts and assumptions, whether it be in the arts or the sciences.
Technology has come a long way on the farm, especially on large farms like the Walter P. Rawl Farm in central South Carolina. But you know, back in the early 1900s, they thought technology was great then too, with the advent of tractors and new engines. Let's go back to that era and see just what they had to use. Corn is grown in most areas of the southeast. Some farmers continue to use a horse or mule to pull a manual plow or other tillage implement. As corn grows, the land must be cultivated. Once the crop matures and the corn dries, the ear is removed from the stalk by hand. Unless, of course, you're fortunate enough to have a snapper. That's a machine with 2 rollers made to break or snap corn ears from the stalks. A tractor pulls the machine through the field, as it also furnishes power to turn the snapping rollers, the elevators, and the fans. The wagon behind the snapper collects ears for transport to storage. Removing the shuck from the ear is also done by hand or machine, a process called shucking. That's before the ears are shelled. A corn sheller saves the farm family time and energy. Corn cobs are saved to fuel the family fireplace, and the shucks are fed to the mules. These are frugal times, requiring people to live by the saying, waste not, want not. To make the most out of corn for livestock, dried kernels are cracked. The small pieces of cracked corn are then fed to the farm's chickens, which supply eggs and fryer chickens for the dinner table. Some machines are run by hit-and-miss engines, an engineering design of great value until they were replaced by more efficient models. Corn grits and cornmeal are staples of the family kitchen. The grits are cooked in many different ways, and the cornmeal is used in bread-like foods, hoe cakes, and cornbread. The 1920s machine, which ground corn into grits and meal, is affordable for larger farms to own one. Those farmers no longer have to take their corn to the community's grits mill to have it ground. As we've already seen, many crops are grown and harvested with the help of a lot of human and animal labor. As farms become specialized and volumes increase, machines are developed to increase productivity and output and decrease the amount of labor needed. That includes the labor needed to produce small grains like wheat, oats, barley, and rye. These crops are planted in late fall or early winter here in the southeast. They are normally not cultivated and must be harvested by cutting the plant and removing the grain or seed heads from the top of the plant. As with corn, the cutting and removal can be done with hand labor, but that's very slow and hard work, or it can be done with the help of machines. Small grains like oats are grown for livestock feed, while most of the wheat is grown for flour. Another staple in the South is crowder or field peas. The hand harvesting method involves the use of a curved cutting blade with a handle. The farmer uses one hand, normally his right, to cut the grain. The other hand is used to collect or cradle the cut stalks. The cradle, a more recent development in our times, can also be used with two hands in a sweeping or swinging motion to collect the cut stalks. Stalks of grain are bundled together after they're collected and left in the field to dry. Each bundle is called a shock. A modern machine in these early 20th century times is pulled by two mules to harvest the grain stalks. It cuts the grain and gathers it into shocks. This machine, later improved by adding a mechanism that ties the shocks with string, makes it easier to stack. The stacked grain can be left in the field to dry and store until the thresher makes a visit to the farm. Like so many other parts of the country, South Carolina farmers rely on Mother Nature or what the good Lord provides as far as rainfall and access to water. Unless farmers are fortunate enough to live near one of our beautiful scenic riverways. Let's take a look at one now in this Palmetto portrait. Well, that concludes South Carolina's episode of Farm Bureau Voices of Agriculture. We hope you've enjoyed what we've shared with you and what South Carolina farmers have to offer consumers around the country. If you're interested in any of these stories or want to learn more about the South Carolina Farm Bureau, we invite you to log on to our website, scfb.org. That stands for South Carolina Farm Bureau.org. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Reggie Hall.